Super Draco here, and welcome to Why, the show where I don't always have an answer to that question. So, today in episode 23, we're going to be starting the Lego Piranha plant. So, for those of you who are new or don't watch all of my content, when I build Lego, this is a chill affair because it's Lego. I don't think there's any need to stress or overwork or super edit like I do other things. Because unlike Ecto 1, there's not tons of screws holding together plastic and metal and electric cables. So I like to do this chill. So in an effort to continue to change and evolve and grow spread out my product, I've decided to do something different with this video. So I'm going to tell you when I'm going to start, but today I'm just going to do kind of an audio documentary to go with the Lego thing. Or, no, maybe not a documentary, but basically what I want to do is I want to discuss a film theory I have, but at the risk of being caught with copyright or having my video claimed, I figure I'll do it over this chill Lego build, because then there's no copyrighted material, and plus, if people are intrigued by my idea, they might go watch the movie. So, as always, this is a chill affair. If you don't want to hear my bizarre take on an old movie, feel free to mute me. Play whatever audio you want. This is Lego. Enjoy it however you see fit. Okay, so to set the stage, one of my all-time favorite movies is Cronenberg's The Fly. Now, the story of The Fly goes all the way back to the 50s, where it was originally published as a short story in an issue of Playboy magazine. And now a moment of ADD with Super Draco. Wait. On an ADD-related tangent, is anyone old enough to remember, or does anyone even remember Playboy magazine and how it actually used to be in more than just nude pictures of women? Anyway, tangent over. So the premise of The Fly is that a scientist builds a teleporter, and when he attempts to teleport himself, a fly flew into the teleporter, and his atoms and the fly's atoms got mixed together. So he came out of it with the head of the fly and one of the fly's arms, replacing his head and his arm. The fly, now having his head and one of his arms, escaped before he could capture it and was unable to undo the damage, or undo what he had done to himself. Then that was later adapted into a movie, also called The Fly, that featured Vincent Price. Then it spawned two sequels, Revenge of the Fly and Son of the Fly. I've only ever seen the original The Fly. I've actually never seen the others. And then you fast forward to the 80s, and I forget the studio. Was it Fox? But the studio was doing remakes of classic horror movies, so they worked on they had a script for a remake of The Fly. But when David Cronenberg signed on as the director, he rewrote the script into the iconic movie it is today. The remake did spawn a sequel, The Fly 2, and then a sequel comic book called The Fly Outbreak. And full disclosure, I love The Fly 2, but I hate The Fly Outbreak. I think it misses a bunch of the key science and tone of the first Fly, and is a little too far into the campiness of The Fly 2. Anyway, so in the remake, Cronenberg reimagines the scientist as Seth Brundle, played by Jeff Goldblum. Seth is working on a teleporter because he gets motion sickness in most normal forms of travel, cars, planes, trains, etc. So when he teleports himself a fly was inside the teleporter with him, and the computer, not sure what to do because there were not supposed to be two bodies inside of it, it spliced him and the fly together at the molecular genetic level. And so the rest of the movie plays out as a slow burn as he experiences a gradual transformation into a creature that, by the director's own description, that the world has never seen before, because he explicitly did not want basically a man with the head of a fly or a humanoid fly. Now, here's where I'm going to describe my thoughts on this, because I've seen that movie way too many times because it's gross in the best possible way, and it's just a masterclass in body horror excellence. And just put my opinion out there, it is a shame that that movie hasn't gotten more awards and accolades for Jeff Goldblum's performance, the chemistry between him and Gina Davis. And it did, I believe, win an Oscar for Best Special Effects, but still. So anyway, on to my theory, and because this is my opinion. In the movie, as Jeff Goldblum as Seth Brundle transforms from Brundle into Brundlefly, in the beginning he experiences hypersexuality, almost attention deficit disorder, like behavior, and an incessant need to have sugar, which at face value they're all very fly-like traits. But and again, this is just me thinking too much about an old movie that I'm not going to put any imagery up just because I don't want to even run the risk of being copyrighted or copyright claim, even though I can't even monetize this video. But anyway, so in my opinion, those first few changes are mental changes, but I think that's because his body is experiencing a metamorphosis. His brain, he's literally experiencing these things because his brain is signaling the body to start doing something different because of his new genetics. And essentially, as the movie progresses, his skin basically begins to get gross and discolored, and eventually he starts getting bulges and stuff in it. And in my opinion, what's happening to him is he basically, as he metamorphosizes, his original skin is being used as a sort of pupa. And the reason I suspect this is, in the real world, insects that pupate, if you damage their pupa, they will emerge early. And depending on how early they are, they will be they can be incomplete, malformed, and just in an unsustainable state. During the movie, during a deleted scene, he merged a cat and a baboon together as part of an experiment trying to figure out how to make himself more human. And the resulting creature, the baboon, during the previous scenes would jump into Jeff Goldblum or Seth Brundle's arms. So the creature, the baboon, scared, literally runs and jumps into his arms. But the cat, which was still present, was scared and in pain, so it lashed out at him, scratching him and wounding him. And this scene was deleted because it changed the tone of the movie, because then Brundlefly would, realizing the creature was suffering, would beat it to death with a pipe. And then he would jump on the roof of the warehouse he lived in and worked in to yell his frustration at the world. And in the process, the wound the cat gave him, or the creature gave him resulted in a fly leg emerging early from his body and then him ripping it off. And it's very disgusting and very cool scene, and it's kind of a shame it got cut, but I completely understand they had to cut it because it really did change the tone of the movie in a bad way. But this also creates a continuity error because in the end, when he undergoes his final transformation, he's missing that fly leg and actually has a nasty wound where it used to be. Anyway, ignoring that, so the second instance of this early transformation happening is at the climax of the movie. While struggling with his girlfriend, trying to throw her into the teleporter so he can merge himself with her, because in his own words, together they'll be more human than he is alone. Because at this point, he's just gone insane. And in the struggle, she knocks off his entire lower mandible, which basically causes his final transformation. His skin basically rips apart, the other fly leg emerges, his old head basically breaks apart with the new hybrid human fly head coming out underneath. And just for a fun fact, they actually modeled the creature that the designers nicknamed the Space Bug. They used Jeff Goldblum's own eyes to make it so they would be more convincingly him. It's disgusting in a really cool way. Anyway, so during the final sequence of the movie, after fully emerging out of his human skin, he has one arm that's very fly-like and another that still has two humanoid-like fingers or digits. He has one leg that ends in a fly-like leg and another leg that isn't quite there. It's still more plantigrade, i.e. standing on the flat of the foot with toes. And his head, one side of his head is much larger and more bulbous than the other. And the director and the designers of the movie intended it that way. They wanted it to be bizarre and not cohesively formed. And what got me thinking about this was in the sequel, The Fly 2, Brundle's son, who was conceived after he was first teleported during that phase of hypersexuality, he undergoes a metamorphosis, but a more natural one, because he even cocoons to transform into. And I was thinking about, because he's more human than insect, because he has the 3-digit fingers like Brundlefly on the one side. He walks digitigrade, but he still has the toes. And this is what formed that theory, because it made me realize that when his jaw got pulled off, it triggered his transformation early. So had he not been wounded, I think that transformation would have progressed and he would have been a more balanced thing. And both sides would be the same. His head would have been simplistic, or would have been shaped properly. It wouldn't be one side larger than the other. Because in the beginning he had a wound on his back and fly-like hairs emerged from the wound as his first physical sign. He was changing. And that's the side that was more fully formed. So because he was already in the process of healing, I think that's why his body began the transformation there. But then going back to the Fly 2, the Martin Fly as they call it, he still had his mandibles, but like Brundlefly, he also could do the vomit drop. So that makes me think, because his teeth were essentially vestigial, so that makes me think that Martinfly would eat just like Brundlefly did by dissolving his food and siphoning it back up. And a really cool feature on the Spacebug prop is you could see where the mandible used to be attached still moving, which makes me suspect that his chin would have fallen, the actual chin bone would have fallen off, but his mandible would have stayed, and he would have still had it. And that's what kind of hinges that theory. And just continuing that line of thought, Martenfly was a more idealized version of Brundlefly because he had more human DNA. So essentially, he's probably what Brundlefly would have been if he had found a better way to add more human DNA to his body. But yeah, that's just an interesting theory because what counteracts that is the intent of the director, the writer, and the special effects producers. Because the Brundlefly space bug was supposed to look bizarre. It was supposed to look like something that never truly existed. And so this whole theory is just ignoring the intent of the director and the writers and the special effects guys. Just considering the whole thing in universe. And then just to finish it up, so the finale of the movie, when he tries to teleport himself and Ronnie together and to merge them into one body, her telepod is disconnected from the system by her ex-lover using a shotgun to sever the cables. When Brundlefly tries to break out of the other telepod because it's on a countdown, right as he gets the door open, it teleports him and a large chunk of the telepod itself because the door was open, so now there was a space that the computer wasn't programmed to deal with. And then in the shocking finale, the Brundlefly emerges from the third telepod, fused with metal and cables fused into his body, but not intentionally, because these things are non-living. They can't be merged into him properly, so what came out was a disfigured, mangled abomination that the filmmakers called Brundlething. So this is a very cool discussion. Tell me what you think. Check out my fantasy story on Fiction Press. Thanks for watching.